Okay, so here's a very quick discussion about media theory in the first week. I have a handy little PowerPoint here that you can obviously see, and we're just going to walk through some steps about the first step in sort of being successful in ultimately writing an essay that will be your final project for the quarter. Each of you is going to have to pick a project film that you're going to watch and you're going to study. And over the course of this quarter, each week we're going to be focusing on different aspects of the film. We'll start off. We're talking about the storytelling. We'll talk about the visual design. We'll talk about the editing, the cinematography, the sound design, the lighting. We'll talk about all the different aspects of the film. And each week, you'll sort of watch your film again and sort of study how these various aspects are important to your film, and you'll write about them or answer some questions or take a quiz, or you'll do something related to that week's assignment and the film, your film. Okay, so week one, the very first thing we're talking about is simply just watching the movie for the first time. Each of you needs to select a film that you're going to do, and hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. You're gonna have to pick a film that you're gonna do as your project film, and I recommend really good filmmakers. Don't pick a crappy movie. It's got to be a feature film. Pick a really sort of famous filmmaker, and you'll probably do pretty good, picking a film that you like from that filmmaker. Don't pick something that you're really familiar with. Pick something that, you maybe saw a long time ago, but you'll find out pretty quickly that, what's really important is that you have a fresh viewing of the film. That means you're going to sit down, you're going to watch a movie, and your experience of watching that film will be rather fresh and new for you, because the first viewing is very important, and ultimately that's what we're going to be talking about very briefly here, the art of watching the film. You need to watch this film, and the assignment is simply this: to outline and make detailed notes of your experience watching the film. You don't have to focus on the film, okay? You need to you need to focus on your what you were thinking and feeling as you watched the film. And I say be specific about this because you want to outline the process, outline sort of your feelings, what you're thinking and feeling through the course of the movie. So like if there's a certain point in the film where you feel something, then make a note of when it's happening in the film. This is extremely important because all of the work that you do from next week and the weeks throughout the quarter, as we're looking at the different aspects of the film, is to figure out how the filmmaker created that experience for you. So if you're thinking about the cinematography, you're looking at the cinematography and you're trying to uncover how the cinematography contributed to your experience of the film. It's all about your experience. What did you think? What did you feel? How did the filmmaker accomplish that? What decisions did the filmmaker make in order to give you that experience? It's all about what the experience is. So the first step is to watch your project film and make a detailed list of what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Could be confusion, frustration. Be a little bit more specific than that. When you're thinking that, why are you thinking that? Why are you feeling that? So there you have it. Okay, so that's the first week's assignment. And here, this was just sort of an introductory thing with this this little PowerPoint here. The uniqueness of film talks about just how film is quite different than any other art form. That experience that you have when you go and sit down in a movie theater, the lights go down, you're sitting in a big room with complete strangers, and the lights come up and you sort of peer in through this magical window that is the movie screen, and watching people that don't know that you're looking at them. It's quite creepy. It's very voyeuristic. And after about 2 hours and the movie's over, you have no recollection of having passed in that theater. So that's kind of the magic of cinema, is that it sort of transports us out of our bodies, and we transcend into the story of the film, if it's working right. There's plenty of films where something happens in the storytelling that I don't get, takes me out of the story, and suddenly I realize I'm in the theater again. The challenges of film analysis, the value of film analysis, becoming a receptive viewer. We're going to talk about these things in the next steps here. So let's sort of go to the next step. Okay, the film viewing environment. Watching a movie in a theater is very different. Watching it at home on a little screen is going to change your experience of the film. So do your best to give yourself, as immersive an experience if you can. And if you can't, be thoughtful of the fact that you're watching it on your iPhone, let's just say. That's going to affect your experience. Make note of how that is affecting your experience. When the screen is 12 feet tall or more, we're talking about a screen that really takes up more of your peripheral vision, and it is more immersive. The sound system in a movie theater is surround sound and really sort of immerses you in the environment more so than maybe your living room. Some of you might have a fancy setup at home, I don't know, but I don't. And it's hard to compete with simply going to a movie theater and sitting in a vast room like that. So prepare yourself to see the film. Be ready. Don't be in a hurry to do something else. Get your work done. Sit down. Commit to the hour and a half it's going to take to watch the film before you sit down and do it. Don't be busy in your mind and turn your phone off and give yourself over to the process of watching the film. Deepening your responses to films. I think we need to go through more of this stuff, but okay. Deepening your responses to films is, be thoughtful of what you're getting into and what you're going to see. Don't just take everything at face value in terms of what you're thinking and feeling. I don't want to go into this yet because I really don't want you going too deep into your response. I just want you to record what your response was. Be thoughtful of it. You can sort of elaborate on those responses after the film is over. Make notes as you're watching and when it's happening, and maybe jot down, I'm confused in this moment, and make a little note of why you were confused. And then after the film is over, you can sort of elaborate a bit more on what was going on, and maybe it cleared up for you. Maybe you'll find that maybe that is exactly what the filmmaker wanted of you. That's one thing to consider. You've made your list. I want you to write an essay that's 300 words, sort of putting all these thoughts together. And ultimately, you want to ask yourself, did what I experience, is that what the filmmaker intended? Is that what they wanted me to think and feel? And, why did they want me to think and feel that? How did that help me, I guess, identify with what was going on in the story, how I identified with the character, how I identified with the conflict, how it helped me understand what was going on in the story. Chances are, if it's a good filmmaker and, everything is going the way it's supposed to, every thought and every feeling you had was something the filmmaker intended, and it helped you understand and experience the film. Questions for analyzing your response to film. So here's a question. Do you have any strong prejudices against the particular type of film? So, don't pick a film that you don't like. If you don't like romantic comedies, then, don't pick that as your project film. But, that being said, prejudices are interesting, especially when it comes to, I think it's going to talk about it here, the actors, okay? How much does your personal or highly subjective response to the following aspects of the film affect your judgment? So, let's say that you cannot stand Tom Cruise. I don't know. How does that affect your experience of the film? Think about that for a second. Sometimes you might pick an actor that you really, really like, and you watch the film, and because it's an actor that you really like, and maybe the film isn't so good, or their performance isn't so good, or you don't like the character that the actor is portraying. how does that affect your experience of the story? It's a very subjective thing. Treatment of sexual material. I mean, if you think about, the, sex in films, it tends to make everybody in the room uncomfortable. Well, how did it make you feel? How does that affect your experience of the material? Is it what the filmmaker intended? So think about this kind of stuff. And that's including with violence. Violence, sometimes we're very sensitized to violence, and sometimes violence can be graphic and make us uncomfortable and squeamish. And, in many cases, films get more and more violent every year because I think audiences get sensitized to it. So they kind of have to, up the stakes a little bit and, create a little bit more gore and grossness in order to get the same kind of shock value, in order to get the audience to respond to it in a way that they want them to. They want the audience to experience this in a particular way. So filmmakers are becoming more and more inventive of how to get that response again. I remember Sam Peckinpah way back in, I don't remember what, 70s, 60s, 70s, he was making films, and, it was some of the first films where he was really, Straw Dogs particularly, was making films where the violence was just something nobody had ever seen, and, was created a lot of controversy at the time. Well, what kind of movies are doing that now, like Django Unchained? Apparently, I haven't seen it yet, but apparently it's extremely violent. I imagine it's in order to elicit a very particular response. So, given all of this, can you justify the sex and violence in the film aesthetically, or are these scenes included strictly to increase box office appeal? Well, who cares about the box office appeal? Do you think that your response to this type of material was useful to the storytelling, useful to your experience, and what the director intended? What were your expectations before seeing the film? This is a big one. What did how much do you know of the movie before going in? Write this down before you watch the film. Write down what your expectations are. Write down the title of the film, what you think that might mean, and then write down what your expectations of the film are. How much of it did you know of beforehand? Have you seen it before? Sometimes you might have seen the film like when you were, 5 years old, and you're like, this was the greatest movie ever, I'm going to watch this movie again, I love this film, and then you watch the film and you're like, oh, it's not such a good movie. I guess at 5, my sensibilities in terms of what I liked in films was quite different, but okay, what were your expectations? So, and how do those expectations influence your reaction to the film? And that's something to reflect upon after you finish watching the film. How much did your expectations affect your viewing? I mean, we've all been in the movie theater and we've seen a film that, got a lot of hype, and we're like, oh, this is going to be good, and you go to the film and your expectations are so high that, it can't be anything but, short of the mark. And hype can certainly influence your experience. It's important to note what they are. Ultimately, what we're trying to do as you watch the film and looking at the experiences, and everybody's experience of a film is going to be different, but what you're trying to do is pare down what was subjective and what can be determined to be an objective point of view at what the director intended, where are they successful, and then how did they accomplish it. Now, all you got to figure out is what were the reactions and what were the experiences the director intended, and be objective about them. If I don't like Tom Cruise, I can be objective about the fact that I don't like seeing his face on the screen, but then I can sort of set that aside, okay, and then figure out, okay, Tom Cruise aside, how did I feel about his character? How do I feel about what were the intentions of the filmmaker? I mean, that's part of what we're trying to do here. What your expectations are going in will help you see more objectively once you identify what they are and how they affected you. What is your mood, mental attitude, physical condition while seeing the movie? Was it less than ideal? If you're watching the film after having a major car accident, that's probably going to influence your experience of the film. I recommend, being in a relatively receptive mood, having an attitude that, this is something you want to do, and, your physical condition, well, take care of yourself, I guess, while you're watching the film. If so, how does this fact influence your perception? So make note of it. If you're in a crappy mood and your foot hurts, make note of it, because maybe it might influence your experience of the film. Hopefully not. If you watch the movie on a TV screen, I kind of mentioned this before. In which scenes do you feel that lacked intensity of involvement, needed to enjoy the film completely? Well, I mean, if it's a good film, it's meant to be seen on a big screen. I mean, of course, most of it isn't going to be very effective. I think of Paranormal Activity, and I saw that. I didn't see it in the movie theater. I saw it at home on my television set, and I thought, this is a really silly movie. I mean, it wasn't scary at all. I mean, it was just kind of stupid. It was. It didn't scare me one bit. And I think mainly there was two reasons for that. It wasn't on a gigantic screen, and things couldn't really just jump out at me from a corner of the screen because it's all right in front of me. I mean, I don't have to kind of look very far. My peripheral vision is, got a lamp and a wall, and so nothing can really jump out at me. And plus, I don't have the benefit of an entire room of really fearful people that I don't know, freaking out as the movie's going on, because that will influence my experience. If everybody else is getting nervous, it kind of creates an energy in the room, and that can, I guess, be positive in terms of, the anticipation, the tension of the film. So, consider that as you're watching the film. Most of you are probably going to watch it on a little television screen. I don't recommend sitting too close to it. So it takes up most of your peripheral vision. That might be uncomfortable for your eyes, and we just saw that you don't want to inflict any sort of physical damage to yourself as you watch the film, because that might influence your experience as well. So let's just think about it this way. Be thoughtful of when looking at something on a small screen, how is that affecting your experience? Can you imagine your experience being different? I mean, it's kind of stupid. I mean, can you imagine your experience being different? I mean, I guess so. You're looking for the intentions of the director and the filmmaker. So if you can, see it on a big screen. See it projected in some way. If you read reviews or scholarly essays, which I know you all do, before your viewing, then observations or opinions which ones caught your interest? I'll just skip that one. Okay. And that's it. Really, that's it. I haven't skipped anything more. So, think about these things, be considerate of these things, and look at the assignment sheet. Watch your project film. The first thing you need to do is make sure you okay it with me. So send me your idea for what film you want to do this project for. Everybody else in Media Theory Week 1 had to watch The Science of Sleep and do this for the movie The Science of Sleep to kind of get some practice at this, because it's real important that you really do a thorough analysis of your experience of the film in order to have, to be successful 11 weeks from now writing the essay, believe it or not. So I gave everybody the assignments to watch this film, Science of Sleep, and if you want to do that film for your project film, you may. It's a great film. All right, I'm just going to stop right there. Hopefully this gave you a good week 1 introduction. As far as week 2 is concerned, I might have to do another one of those and catch you up on that as well. But week 3, hopefully, we'll be meeting, and we can do sort of a run through this whole thing. Okay, that's it. Have a good evening.